What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Dever Out YouTube channel. I am your host, Kevin Coleman, and we are back with another Reading the Room. So what we like to do in this series is kind of look at different areas, crowded quarterback rooms of college football, running backs, wide receivers. Where's the value, right? So if you're a college football fan, this is a video for you. If you're a UCLA fan, this is a video for you because we're going to be looking at UCLA quarterbacks. Where's that quarterback battle? I think it's going to be an interesting battle, a fun battle. We're going to dive into each quarterback, strengths, areas that they need to work on, their improvement areas. Also, kind of looking at the offense moving forward, what we can expect from it. And if you play college fantasy or Debbie or anything like that, you could be looking at like, hey, who do we value here? Who's the guy to kind of target? So we're going to be diving into it after the intro. Hit that like button while that's going. Then, fast forward if you need to. It's only 13 seconds. And then catch me on the other side, and we'll be diving into this with all the data. All right, I had to throw our guy Dante Moore up there on the thumbnail, but let's get into it. So last year, what we saw, they finished with a 9-4 record, 6-3 in conference. Dorian Thompson-Robinson was there; he exhausted his eligibility, so there's going to be a new quarterback, right? When we're talking about that, Chip Kelly's best 2 years was the last 2 years, so 9-4, 8-4. They did kind of fall down the stretch and lost the Sun Bowl last year. Now, as far as their offense, scoring offense, top 10 in the country. Total offense, top 5 in the country. So you saw a lot of numbers they put up. I don't think the efficiency was quite there, though, right? Plays per game, something that you expect Kelly to be pretty high on, 35th. Passing attempts, 56, 82nd passing percentage, rushing attempts per game, 33rd. So when you're looking at that from that perspective, I think the efficiency needs to get better, and the quarterback has to be a big part of that. I do think that they have better weapons this year that we're going to talk about and what they're bringing in, but the quarterback is the key, and I think DTR was good for them, but not great. And I think it did definitely limit their ceiling a little bit. So moving forward, if they pick the right quarterback, they get into the Big Ten in next year in 2024, that is what they really need to grab, right? And especially because the Pac-12 this year, everybody, is going to be one of the most competitive conferences in the world. I mean, they're going to eat up on each other. They're just going to – the quarterback play is absolute phenomenal for college quarterback play. I'm not talking NFL. They're gonna beat up on each other here, and I think they really, really need to elevate themselves with that quarterback. Now, the guys that they're going to be in here. So let's talk about the battle. First, Dante Moore, one of the highest rated recruits coming to UCLA. QB3 was originally going to Oregon, but then decommitted last minute after Bo Nix came back. So he wants to start right away. That's something to note. He's one of the more accomplished players in this class. 4-year starter in high school, 2 state championships, pretty much did it all. There's not so much I can say about Dante Moore. Just, hey, very, very good quarterback. Now, when we're going over the tape and what he does well, experience. He's one of the more experienced players in this class. And I think overall, like if you start a true freshman, there's always going to be a little bit of bumps. But this kid has played so much that he's gotten so many reps. I think there's less bumps than that, right? Played at a high level, really put himself out there, improved every single year. His junior year statistically was probably his best year. But even then, when you look at his decision-making and awareness, those are things to highlight. He had 3 interceptions each of the last 3 seasons. That's it. His first freshman year did have 11 interceptions, but you could tell he got better. So he had 3, 3, and 3. That shows you that he's improved. He has that good decision-making awareness. And when you look at it, when you watch this tape and go through, I did a whole breakdown on Dante Moore. So if you're interested in that, go find it. You'll see it after this video. I'll put it on there, kind of diving into his film and looking at it. It's really, really good film. And you see that his ability to kind of layer passes at every level, make the right reads. One thing that I noticed as I watched his tape from freshman year to senior year. I dived into it because he's one of my favorite prospects. He really, really improved in his progressions, and he started calling audibles and plays at the line of scrimmage his senior year, something that a lot of quarterbacks don't do. So you have to like that. You have to like that from that possession. And one thing that Kelly really highlights is awareness and decision-making. All these quarterbacks kind of tend to have that, and that's something that he likes. So I do think that the hesitation for Kelly to start him because he's a true freshman isn't necessarily going to be there because of the experience that he has. And you could tell Dante Moore wanted to go play, right? That is the case. He wants to be that starter. Now, as far as areas of improvement, I think the ceiling question is what it is, right? Like, and from an NFL standpoint, what is he? right? So like, what is this kid coming out? I believe 247 Sports come to Dak Prescott or something like that. So like, what's his ceiling? And I do think the ceiling is more of like the NFL side. From a UCLA side, I think he offers them the highest ceiling for a college quarterback. But from an NFL area, like, what is that ceiling going to look like? Athleticism, he's not necessarily a burner. He can create plays. And one thing about his film, when you watch it, he does make plays happen with his arm, right? He gets outside the pocket, but he does not look to just go run, right? There is a level of like, hey, I'm going to make sure I can push this ball downfield. That's something to like. And in arm strength, I think that he has good enough arm strength to get it there. Does he have NFL arm strength, right? Now, he's going to have good enough arm strength to go to UCLA. DTR didn't have great arm strength. He still put up numbers. So I don't think the numbers in college is what concerns me. It's the number. Like, does he have that arm strength to make an NFL? Does he have an NFL arm? I think that's the big one. Now, as far as the next guy, Ethan Garbers. So Ethan Garbers was a transfer from Washington. He's been there, when you're looking at the numbers there for UCLA. Again, he's a redshirt junior, older prospect, has been in that system. He came in as quarterback 4, right? So when we're looking at his 247 Sports from 2020, came in there and just didn't win the job at Washington, right? Did not look necessarily good. Didn't look bad. Chase Garbers' brother. But he does have that familiarity with the system. My favorite stat of his: 7 attempts, 0 yards, 2 touchdowns. Gotta love that. As far as like what he does well as a quarterback, UCLA experience, right? He's in that system. He knows it. Right. So that's going to give him up the hand. I will say Dante Moore was an early enrollee, so he has had time to adjust to it. So maybe that doesn't come into play. Pocket presence has always been really good, and an awareness. I do think that his awareness, he does know where to go with the football. He's one of those guys, when you watch him play, you can tell he's been around football for a long time. That's something that obviously Chip Kelly's going to like in this system. Now, as far as areas of improvement, though, he's a floor quarterback. As far as just the team, you start Garbers, you win 7 games probably. I mean, the Pac-12 is going to be tough this year, like I mentioned, but you're probably going to win 7 games. But that's it. Like, I don't see him getting up to that 9-10 win area, where I think Dante Moore, from a college quarterback, not an NFL, evaluation, but from college quarterback, his ceiling is definitely higher than Garbers. So what do they want, right? Accuracy. I think mechanics. There's something with his area where he does do that. You saw the couple interceptions that he's had. And then the other thing, he's failed to win the job, right? Like, he's been in that system for that long. You would expect him to be like, hey, yeah, this is the next guy up. I understand that Moore is a very, highly touted prospect, but Collin Schlee, the guy from Kent State that we're going to talk about next, he came in and everybody just expected him to be the starter before Dante Moore officially committed. So Garbers really hasn't taken that job, right? That's the question mark. Now, Collin Schlee from Kent State, obviously his coach went over to Colorado for Deion Sanders, so he jumped in the portal. QB 30, 3-star kid, definitely stepped up and definitely, is a dual threat. 492 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns last year. The 2,000 yards passing, completion percentage, you see that. Performed adequately well. Not like amazing, not, shouting out there, but he did do enough to have people to say, hey, maybe this could be the guy moving forward, and maybe that's what it looks like. As far as his strengths, he's got that dual threat. I think he's a pretty good off-script playmaker. So when he gets pushed out the sideline and pushed out the boundary and kind of do those things, like, he can make things happen. I think that is where his strengths are, in terms of, like, if he can win this job, he has to make that coaching staff believe that he can make plays to win, right? They might use him in some packages. I could see that maybe moving forward, because he does offer that dual threat area there. But I don't think he's the best dual threat quarterback on this list. We haven't even talked about him. We'll talk about him next. But awareness, again, I think really, in reality, that's where, like, Kelly likes a lot of these guys. That's where a lot of these guys kind of stand out to me. It's like, hey, they know they're going to fit the system. This is what they're going to do. I just have a hard time seeing Collin as like that guy. So I just don't see him being in that quarterback 2 or 1 category. If Garbers was a transfer or whatever, then yeah, he would jump in there. Areas of improvement, arm strength, not going to have it. The G5 to P5 thing really makes me nervous. I really struggle with group of 5 guys going to Power 5, especially if the group of 5 guy didn't like wow you, right? So Collin doesn't really wow us. He's there, not necessarily like put up this top production, everything there. So I think that's the biggest question mark. How does he do going from that, G5 to the Pac-12? How does he look there? And then limited upside in terms of team. Again, you started Collin, you're probably winning 6 games. Kelly can't afford that, especially heading into where you got to recruit really well, get in that Big Ten. I think that's the question. Now, last guy that we're just going to dive in real quick, Justyn Martin's a guy I really think he had a ton of potential. Quarterback 17 of the class. He redshirted essentially, right? So when you're looking at what he did, redshirt freshman, again, what is that upside going to be? I think he's the best dual threat kid on this. He got the good size and everything there. People really thought he was going to take over after DTR left. Obviously, he needs to develop a little bit more. Probably a transfer portal kid. I don't know. But I wanted to shout him out because he is the name you got to know. Now, as far as the offensive outlook next year, so what do we see from this room? Running back room, TJ Harden's there, Keegan Jones, Carson Steele's a transfer, Colson Yangoff, Anthony Atkins, a lot of guys in that room. Running back by committee, I would say. I think that there's going to be a lot of bit of running back by committee. Who is hot, who is not. Okay, I like TJ Harden. I do like Carson Steele. I think he's getting drafted way too high, though, in a lot of those drafts in that time. I don't necessarily see Carson as being a Debbie asset if you play that kind of fantasy sport. But again, a good room, solid room, no real superstars, but very solid. Wide receiver room, the guy that you guys should all know is J. Michael Sturdivant. I think he's a stud. I think he could really, really step up for this offense, especially if Dante Moore is a quarterback. Redshirt sophomore from Cal, transfer, really, really good athlete, one of the better athletes out of Texas when he was a recruit. Cam Brown, Logan Loya, Kyle Ford, another one, transfer as well. Senior, could really step up in that offense. Jaden Marshall, there's some guys there. Jeremiah McClure is a freshman to keep an eye on. Really good room, like probably one of the more talented wide receiver rooms we've seen under Chip Kelly's era. Give it a shot there. Tight end wise, realistically, UCLA has been kind of tight end they've actually been really, really good at the tight end position. When you have their Hudson Habermal, Matavio, he is a kid from Oregon that I've highlighted, from Arizona, tight end. He is really good, and I love this spot for him. If he can step up and really kind of develop, he could be one of the better Pac-12 tight ends. Really, really good. Keep an eye on him. I really, really enjoy watching him play tight end position. Now, what is our prediction? I think Dante Moore. I think he gives you the best ceiling. I think that he can go out there and maybe win 9 to 10 games if he really does that. I don't think the experience thing in terms of like college experience is going to hurt him as much because he has played so much, and he just offers there. And I don't think Chip Kelly's ever been one to shy away from talented players, no matter what age they are, right? We saw him do it with DTR. We've seen him do it multiple times where he gives the keys to a younger kid, and he's had a really, really good spring. Like when you watched him play, he did a really good job out there in spring practices. And even his teammates are saying, hey, this kid's going to be special. I think that it's going to be a competition. I do think Moore wins that job. And I do think they need him to go into, hey, this next year, get some experience and then ready for that Big Ten play in 2024, which is going to be tough, and I think that's exciting for him, getting to go back and play at some of these schools in the Midwest where he's from in Michigan. So I think Dante Moore is the guy. I think he's going to step up. And as far as like where you're drafting him, he's going to the third, fourth-ish round in Devy drafts. I definitely would take that all day. I think there's some value there to be had, especially like if he's going after Arch Manning and those other areas. So that's where I would look at. So appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, I appreciate you guys, especially on these reading the rooms. They're a lot of fun to kind of build and talk about. Let me know in the comments, what other rooms do you want me to look at? What are some rooms that you think that you'd be interested in, that you want me to kind of go over? And like always, hit that subscribe button. Go check out our Patreon. If you want combined rankings, you want our manifesto, all of that, you can check that out.